So I manually studied over 1592 resumes, and here's what I learned about hiring that you can also utilize in order to find top quality people for your company. Hi, my name is Rohan Dhawan and I'm the founder and CEO of Uability. And inside of this video, I'm going to talk about my experience that I had while I was trying to find the right kind of individuals for Uability. In fact, we are still doing that process. And in case you don't already know who I am, well, I run an education consultancy firm where I help clients like yourself get high ticket clients all across the globe because I believe talent should not have borders. The reason I make these YouTube videos is so that people like yourself can get some value for absolutely no cost, so that one day, your business grows and as a result, you decide to work with us. So that being said, let's get straight into the video. So the first lesson that I learned about hiring after screening so many CVs and resumes and doing so many interviews is, number one, that it takes a lot of repetitions to really get good at a skill. Now, considering that I come from much more of an internet marketing background, and what I used to think is that majority of your efforts should just go into marketing and making sure that your sales is all right. And honestly, all that is great if you are trying to achieve your first $1 million. But after you have actually achieved that, scaling past that really requires you to have the right kind of people associated with your company. And I had to learn this the hard way because I used to think, hey, how tough could hiring be, right? It's like you are the boss. You get to ask any questions that you want and you can screen out people, easily. It'll be fine. And I was so naive and trust me, I think, now my experience has taught me one thing, that hiring is probably one of the most important jobs as a CEO that you can do. And I sometimes now believe that it's more important than pretty much all the other activities out there. Like maybe I'll put marketing, sales, and hiring all together now. Okay. Before that, it was marketing, sales, and then all other activities below. Okay. So hiring is very important. That's what I learned. And you only get good at hiring if you put in a lot of repetitions. If I had to think about, how did I get good at marketing? Well, I launched a lot of ads. I pretty much wrote like hundreds and hundreds of ad copies and created different kind of creatives that allowed me to get really good at it. How did I get good at sales? Well, I did hundreds and hundreds of calls, which allowed me to actually gain experience and, allowed me to really get good at it. And then how would I get good at hiring? Well, initially what happened is I found few bad hires and the experience wasn't the best. Okay. I'm not going to get too much into the detail, but basically the experience wasn't the best. And what I started doing is I started having these thoughts within my mind that, hey, Rohan, you're just not good at hiring. You are pretty bad at it. You don't know how to find the right quality people. You would never be able to grow this company into what you want it to become. And all these negative thoughts really started affecting me. And what I realized is I just had to bring my attention back to where it should be. And I had to self-coach myself to make myself realize that, look, it's a volume game. Okay, so just like any other thing in life, you just need to put in a lot of repetitions. And that's the day I decided, forget everything. I'm just going to get really, really good at it. And, I remember, it was like, I was sitting at night with some of these resumes in front of me, and I was like, how am I supposed to find the right kind of person? I was so exhausted, and it was I think 1 a.m. at night. So what I did was I realized that, okay, in order to get good at the skill, I have to put in a lot of repetitions. So what I did is I think it was 500 resumes that I had at that point of time. I handpicked myself individually by screening each one of them. And I remember sending personalized handmade message to each and every individual from scratch within that night, right? So I think I messaged like 450 people, personal message to each one of them, just so that I could get all of them on an interview and really improve my skill of hiring. Okay, so to summarize this point, if you want to get good at hiring or pretty much any skill, you have to put in a lot of repetitions, and that's the only way out. Like, I wish there was some sort of easy hack, but there's none. Okay. Another key lesson that I learned is do not hire for the sake of short-term pain relief. Okay. So this is such an important lesson because, when you have when you're a solo entrepreneur, right? Or not a solo entrepreneur, but you have like a team and you're trying to grow. And when you are any kind of entrepreneur, okay, what entrepreneurs love to do is they love to build, they love to do marketing and produce a lot of sales, right? At least that's what I like to do. But this other task, which kind of like takes you away from doing these revenue generating activities, like, finding people, screening resumes and talking to people, doing interviews, sometimes it just becomes like too much. And all you want to do is just get over this process as soon as possible. You just want to, just find somebody and, hey, just do this, right? And that's the reason why a lot of companies hire really, really fast, and then they don't even fire those people. And as a result, they have a bunch of B and C players growing that organization. So what I had to learn, and I had to learn this the tough way, I had to make myself realize that, Rohan, look, just don't bring in somebody just to fill the role for the sake of it, because eventually what's going to happen is it's going to end up costing you more to bring that person on board than it would to not bring them on board. Okay, so what do I mean by this? Well, what most people are trying to do is, like, especially when they are in this growth stage, right? What they're trying to do is they're trying to really scale their business, and what they want to do is just get anybody in place to just do the job, right? And that's what I did myself. But what I didn't realize is that it actually cost me a lot more to train that person, right? It'll cost me a lot of time. It'll cost my team a lot of time. It'll cost me a lot of resources to, give them all these softwares and onboard them correctly. And then the worst is if they don't work out, it's just going to be a disaster. So it's going to cost me more to bring in a B or a C player than if I were to just do their job myself, right? So it's very critical. Sometimes getting B or C players really, really slow down your company growth. So, I mean, the only suggestion that I could make to you, or the lesson that I learned, is hire really, really slow and fire super fast. And, I knew this principle before as well, but, sometimes you just have to go through that experience, and then, you have to, adhere to it. So that's the key lesson. Just don't hire for the short-term instant relief, because you just want to get over this process and move on. It's never going to get over, right? Hiring is like a continuous process that's going to keep on going on. Which brings me to my third point, right? For most entrepreneurs who are at this growth stage, it's recommended that you divide hiring as well as all the other activities within your business, and you have to kind of picture them as like two different entities. Okay, so one side of your business is where you're doing marketing, sales, and basically trying to run the operations and whatnot, and then the other side of this business is finding talent, recruiting talent, and doing interviews, finding A players, right? So that's like another part of the business. And this part, which involves hiring people, this requires a lot of trials and errors, and it's like not even consistent. Whereas with marketing and sales, like honestly, like you set up a LinkedIn profile or a Facebook profile, or set up like an email, send a blast to a bunch of people, and within 5 to 6 days you generate 5 to 6 calls and you have your first client. So the chances of you getting instant gratification is like it's higher in that scenario or the other entity of your business as compared to this one, because in this case you are not just trying to find anybody to fit in the role, okay, which I already covered before. You're trying to find that one or two, depending on how many people you're finding for that particular role. You're trying to find the highest of the highest level talent. You're not trying to find just anybody, right? So that's like a very major shift that you have to have. You have to consider this as two different business entities, and this other part, this might break. People might come, people might go, but you have to keep doing it again and again, and you just cannot leave it, right? Because of which I want to cover the fourth point, right? So just like in marketing and sales, you have you have, like, let's say a lot of people have like ads, right? And then or maybe they have YouTube or some other sort of marketing channel going on, right? And then they have a proper funnel where they, let's say, get their name or email, or they have a webinar, or maybe they're doing some sort of process, right? People have like thorough processes for bringing in customers. Well, not everybody does. If you don't have one, like, you should definitely book a call with us and we'll help you set that up. But most people have like a proper process in place, right? They know that, okay, if I get these many leads, these many will turn into customers, and this is how the business will function. For this, I will have a marketing manager, or maybe I'll have sales reps, or however way your company is structured, okay? So similarly, you need to actually have this in place for HR as well. It's crazy, right? You need to have a whole funnel for hiring. You need to have a process for vetting out who's a good fit and who's not a good fit. You need to have a process for doing interviews. You need to have a process for actually screening people who are a good fit and not a good fit. You need to have a process to be able to sell and pitch to these people, because why would somebody want to work in your organization when it's not Apple or Google, right? So you need to actually do the hard work of actually pitching the right kind of people as well. So yeah, it's like there are two different entities, and you must try to not ignore this other part of your business. You need to actually consistently get a lot of traffic to your hiring funnel, and you need to have that consistent pool of applicants flowing into that funnel, so that you are doing interviews consistently. You are trying to find and the right kind of talent, because trust me, one thing I've realized is that this company, right, the people that are actually going to grow it would be the people that actually join this organization, right? For example, I myself, I have to like do so many different kind of tasks, right? But when I brought in my first sales rep, he started producing crores in sales, right? And that's something that I could have never done alone myself, because I had 10 other different things that I was looking at. And I'm going to make a video about this in the future, how I was the bottleneck that stopped my business from growing. It's going to be an interesting topic. If you want something like that, do let me know in the comments below. So yeah, I've covered 4 important points about hiring. Now you might be thinking, okay, Rohan, like, I get it. We need to have a different process for hiring. It needs to be different from your marketing and sales, and it needs to be a continuous separate business entity that needs to run. But how would it go about working, right? What's the process behind it? Well, after reading a lot of books and after going through a lot of trials and errors myself, I decided that there are going to be like 4 different stages that really matter when it comes to like finding and finalizing your first hire, or maybe your 100th hire, depending upon who's watching this. So the 4 stages that I want to talk about are, the first one should be basically, it's like a pre-screen. Okay, so stage number 1 should be called as pre-screen. Okay, so it's very critical that you do so. In this pre-screen, what we tend to do is we tend to ask them basic questions like what kind of skills that they have, what kind of skills that they do not have, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, what's their experience, what's their resume like. And trust me, like, a lot of your vetting could be done during this process only. Like, we even ask people to go and watch a video of ours and try to make us understand what they learned from that particular video. And we are trying to judge somebody's communication skills and trying to find out if they are the right fit for this particular role by matching their strengths and weaknesses and matching them to what exactly I require, which is in my scorecard, which is something that I could talk about later. Basically, a scorecard is something that consists of, what are the core things that I want this person to actually achieve? What are the key performance indicators that I want this person to adhere to, right? So that's the first thing. We have stage number 1, pre-screen. We try to match their strengths and weaknesses and try to find out if they are even a good fit for this particular role. Do they have experience doing something like this or not? And if they do not, then and their communication skills are not up to the point, and other things that we look at, if that's not on point, the basic requirements for the role, then we basically vet them out, right? So once we are done with the pre-screen, we have stage number 2, which is called as a focused interview. Okay, now this is inside of a focused interview. What we try to do is we try to understand their skills, for what particular role that they are applying. For example, if somebody is applying for a sales role, right, then we would try to assess whether they have the ability to actually sell or not. We might give them a demo script, and we would ask them that, hey, just try to sell us this particular product. And we are not like expecting them to really sell well, but we are trying to see how open-minded they are, how receptive they are, how fast they can actually learn a particular skill, and all these things really matter. Okay, if you're hiring somebody for support, right, I would test various kind of skills, like how fast is their typing speed, or how fast they could, or how effectively they can write a apology email to a customer if things go wrong, right? So I'm trying to assess these different kind of skills. So it's a focused interview round, and that's what we try to do. Then so just to recap, like stage 1 is pre-screening, just try to vet if somebody has the right kind of strengths for this particular role. Stage number 2 is to actually test those skills, right? So if somebody says, hey, I'm good at sales, doesn't mean that you'll get hired over here. You need to actually prove that and showcase with the help of your experience and past data that how are you good at that skill? How are you able to demonstrate that ability? Okay. And then stage 3 is something that that's called as the who interview. And inside of this who interview, what we are trying to do is we are trying to do a background check. So what we try to do is we make a list of their entire job history, everywhere that they have worked. If they don't have job experience, we try to look at their college experience, the various kind of activities that they did. And then we try to basically assess how did they manage that particular role, and what does the hiring manager or the manager that they had, who they had to report to every single day, how did they think about their skills in that particular role? Okay, so we would ask them how was their experience, what did they do, what did they like, what did they not like, how good were they at that particular role as compared to their other peers. And we are trying to basically establish we are trying to look at their past history to make sure that if somebody, like most human beings, right, they are a representation of their past, right? So just to give you an example of all the things that are happening with Mark Zuckerberg right now, it kind of makes sense, because if you've seen the movie Social Network, you would realize that person, he was like capable of not adhering to different kind of privacy issues by creating that website Face Mash or whatever. And now as well, he's facing a lot of privacy related issues. So basically your past really follows you everywhere. So that's what I believe in as well. When I'm interviewing these people, I'm trying to make sure that how did they manage that role in the past, and what kind of expectations I should have when they actually join. So yeah, stage 1 is pre-screening. Stage 2 is the focused interview, where we are trying to see if they actually can make use of the skills that they just said. Do they really have those skills, or they're just saying it? And stage 3 is we are kind of doing how their experience was working in the previous role while using that particular skill, and how did they use it, and how was the experience overall. And then the last stage is a reference check. So whatever they tell us that, hey, I did this at the previous role and my boss thought I was like this, right? So what we would do then is we would actually take numbers of those managers, whoever they said or whoever they worked under, and we would call them and we would try to ask them and verify if this information is correct or not. Okay, because you just can't take somebody's word for it. You need to actually ask if this is actually true or not. And then the manager obviously reveals what the actual scenario is. And then if all is good, then we invite them to the last stage. And the last stage is where we go about doing a culture interview, just to make sure that this person is the right fit for this organization. Over here, we ask them questions like, what kind of Netflix series do they like? Can they really gel with our team? Because like over here, we are like, if you look at the culture at Uability, it's literally crazy. We are like pack of wolves. When we get sales, we go like crazy. It's like a whole Wolf of Wall Street scene going on. So it's really fun to work here. So we want to make sure that that person is fun as well. We don't want somebody who's I hate to use this, basically not a culture fit, right? So we call that people who are not a good fit for our culture as culture effers. Not to swear here, but that's what we do. And the last thing what I try to do on that interview is to pitch to that person, make all the expectations clear. That I like to be as transparent to that person that, look, this job is going to be tough. Like, it's not going to be all rainbows and butterflies like how most people say. And I give them the actual picture, so that if they have any kind of objection, I want to know that right now, because I don't want to actually entertain any kind of drama later on once they have joined, right? So I do all that, and then finally I would give them the pitch or the presentation that, hey, this is why you should actually join Uability. So that's the whole process behind how I go about hiring. So these are some of the core lessons that I learned, and I hope this benefited you if you are planning to hire. And if not, I mainly made this video so that future Rohan can actually watch this video, and some of the lessons that I covered here, future Rohan can make use of, and he could understand what my thought process was at this point of time. So that being said, if you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Somebody did point out that I did not spell subscribe correctly in the last few videos. That's kind of embarrassing, considering I'm giving all this business advice. So you shouldn't listen to me at all, I think, because I can't spell subscribe. But honestly, it was an honest mistake. So that being said, thanks again. And yeah, do let me know if you like videos like such, and do let me know what kind of videos you would like to see on this channel. Comment below, and yeah, bye-bye. See you.